I want you to picture something with me. It's late at night, maybe 11 p.m., maybe midnight. You're on your couch or in bed and you're reading or watching something that is lighting you up. You can feel it. That electric, almost breathless feeling of, I've got it. I finally understand why I've been stuck. Tomorrow's going to be different. You underline a sentence. You fold the corner of the page. You might even screenshot it. And then you go to sleep. And by 7 a.m. the feeling is gone. Not weakened. Gone. And the book goes on the shelf, right next to the other book that did the same thing 3 months ago. And the one before that. If you've been chasing self-improvement for any length of time, that shelf is real. You might have 10 books on it. You might have 30. Some read cover to cover. Some abandoned at chapter 4. And here's the part that stings. You know this stuff. You know about atomic habits. You know about the growth mindset. You know about living in the present. You know about discipline and identity and morning routines. You know it. That's the question we're going to sit with today. Because I think the answer isn't laziness. It isn't a lack of willpower. I think you might be addicted, not to growth, but to the feeling of growth. And there is a difference. A brutal, life-changing difference. Let's get into it. Here's something most people don't know about self-help books, and it's going to make you feel a little bit tricked. Self-help books work. They actually work, but they work on the wrong part of your brain first. When you read about a new idea, a concept that clicks, a framework that suddenly makes sense of your messy life, your brain releases dopamine, the same reward chemical that fires when you eat something delicious, or win something, or check something off a list. Think about that. Your brain is celebrating before you've even started. And here's the cruel twist. The bigger and more exciting the idea, the bigger the dopamine hit, which means the most ambitious books, the ones about totally reinventing your life, give you the most satisfaction from just reading them. You read, You Can Change Your Identity, dopamine. You read, Every Morning is a New Beginning, dopamine. You read, The Only Limits Are the Ones in Your Mind, dopamine. And your brain files all of that away as progress, as a win, as growth. But nothing changed. No behavior shifted, no conversation had, no morning woken up earlier, no gym visited. The gap between who you were before you opened that book and who you are after closing it is exactly 0. And yet your brain is satisfied. The craving is temporarily fed. This is why people spend years, sometimes decades, in the self-help ecosystem without transforming in any meaningful way. It's not stupidity, it's biology. And it gets worse, because the next layer of the trap is what I call preparation as a hiding place. We've all said it. I'm getting ready to start. I'm going to read one more book first. I'm going to finish this course. I'm going to do more research. I need to fully understand something before I try it. I want to do this right. And look, it sounds responsible. It sounds like diligence. But let's be honest about what it actually is in most cases. It's fear, dressed up as preparation. Because if you're still learning, you can't fail yet. If you haven't started, no one can see you struggle. If you stay in the research phase, your potential is still intact, perfectly preserved, untested, and therefore unbroken. Knowledge for a lot of us has become a comfort zone. It feels like movement. It has the shape of progress, the books, the notes, the highlighted passages. But inside, it's a very sophisticated way of staying exactly where we are. And the friction you're avoiding, that awkward, imperfect, embarrassing first attempt, that is the only doorway to actual change. So, what do we actually do about this? I want to give you a reframe that might feel uncomfortable at first. Sit with it. Stop reading to improve. Start practicing improvement. There's a huge difference between being a learner and being a practitioner. And most people in the self-help space are learners. They consume information with the intention to act. And that intention is real. I'm not doubting it. But intention without motion is just a very well-meaning thought. A practitioner is different. A practitioner acts while confused. A practitioner does the thing before they feel ready. A practitioner doesn't wait for the perfect system. They start with the messy, imperfect version and build from there. Here's the truth about clarity that nobody tells you in a book. You don't get clear by reading more. You don't get clear by thinking longer. You get clear by moving and letting the movement teach you. The writer who stares at a blank page waiting for inspiration will wait forever. The writer who writes badly, 3 pages of complete garbage, gets somewhere. Because you cannot fix a blank page. You can only fix a messy one. You need to get the clay on the table, imperfect, lopsided, wrong, on the table. Now here's where I want to challenge you directly, because this is the part most people skip. Most of us approach learning and action in the wrong order. We read first and hope that action follows. But that hope is almost always disappointed, because the dopamine from the reading substitutes for the action. The brain already got its reward. Flip it, act first, then read to support and refine that action. Decide you're going to start waking up at 6 a.m., start tomorrow. Then, and only then, read the book about morning routines. Now it's not inspiration. It's a manual. You have real questions. You have real friction. The book has answers you actually need. The information lands differently when it's attached to a real problem you're already in the middle of solving. And here's a second question I want to ask you. Think of the last self-help book or video that genuinely moved you. Did it create friction? Did it challenge something you're currently doing and make it uncomfortable? Did it point at a behavior and say, this one, right here, this has to change? Or did it just make you feel good? Because if a book only gives you motivation, if it sends you off on a high with no specific uncomfortable target, it is not self-improvement. A book that genuinely changes you will make you a little bit angry, a little defensive. It will point at the exact spot you've been protecting. That's the friction. That's the signal. That's the one worth acting on. I want to talk about boredom, because in every conversation about transformation, boredom is treated like the enemy. Like if you're bored, something's wrong. If the habit feels routine, you must be doing the wrong habit. I want to completely flip that. Boredom in a habit is not a warning sign. It's a graduation. When something is new, it's exciting. When it's exciting, you do it inconsistently, chasing the novelty. But when something becomes boring, when waking up early is just what you do, when journaling is just what happens before coffee, when the gym is just Tuesday, that's when it's actually changing you. That's when the behavior has moved from a choice to an identity. The problem is that the self-help industry is almost entirely built on novelty. New frameworks, new challenges, new systems, new books. Every 30 days a fresh dopamine cycle, which means the moment a habit starts to work, the moment it becomes routine, you've been trained to feel like you need something new. Don't. The most important self-improvement work you will ever do is boring. It's the same conversation with the same person. It's the same workout in the same gym. It's the same page of writing at the same time every day. Not because variety is bad, but because identity, real lasting identity, is built through repetition, not revelation. You don't become a patient person by reading about patience. You become patient by staying in rooms that test your patience over and over until staying calm is just who you are. That's the work. And it doesn't make a great highlight reel. I want to give you permission for something. Stop watching. Not this video specifically, though honestly that applies too. I mean, stop consuming. Just for today, stop watching the next video. Stop opening the next book. Stop queuing up the next podcast episode. There is something in your life right now, and you know exactly what it is, that you have been learning about instead of doing. You've watched 3 videos about it. You've read 2 chapters about it. You may have made a list or 2, and you haven't done the thing. Pick it. Not the optimal version, not the planned version. The version you can do badly today in the next 10 minutes. Start the difficult conversation. Write the messy first paragraph. Make the awkward phone call. Do the 5-minute workout. Cook the imperfect meal. Send the rough draft. Do it badly. Do it now. Because here is what I've seen over and over again. The people who change their lives are not the best read people in the room. They are not the most prepared. They are not the ones with the most refined system. They are the ones who are willing to be bad at the thing long enough to get good at it. Every person you admire who seems to have built something real, a business, a body, a marriage, a creative practice, they didn't read their way there. They stumbled their way there. They started wrong, adjusted, failed, adjusted again, and one day looked up and realized, I'm the person I was trying to become. That is not an inspiring story you read. That is a messy story you live. If you're not ready to stop consuming completely, and I get it, most of us aren't, I want to give you one rule that will fundamentally change your relationship with every book, course, or video you consume from this point forward. I call it the one idea, one action rule. Here's how it works. When you read a chapter or watch a video, you identify one idea, just one, not the most interesting one, not the flashiest one, the one that has the most friction, the one that makes you slightly uncomfortable, the one that points at the exact thing you've been avoiding. You write it down. Then, and this is the non-negotiable part, you do not read the next chapter until you have repeated one specific behavior based on that idea for 7 days in a row. Not 7 perfect days, not 7 days where you do it flawlessly, 7 days where you show up for the attempt. What this rule does is force a direct relationship between learning and behavior. It creates real friction between the dopamine of a new idea and the reward of moving on. It slows everything down. And that's the point. A book that takes you 6 months to finish because you actually implemented it will change your life more than a book you finish in 6 days and forget by the following weekend. And here's the bonus. When you return to the book after 7 days of practice, the next chapter reads completely differently. Because now you're a practitioner, not a student. You're reading with evidence. Real-world friction, real mistakes, real questions. The author is no longer inspiring you. They're advising you. That is the difference. That is how books actually become tools instead of trophies on a shelf. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe. I'm not going to tell you to share this with a friend who needs to hear it. I'm going to ask you to do something much harder. Go back to that shelf, not to pick a new book. Pick up one you've already read, the one with highlights, folded pages, sentences you swore changed you. And ask yourself honestly, what did I actually do differently because of this? Not what did I understand, not what resonated, not what inspired me. What changed in my behavior? If the answer is nothing, that's not failure. That's clarity. Because now you know the gap isn't knowledge, it's action. So here's what I want you to do. Open that book, find one line, just one, that still feels uncomfortable. Not interesting, not wise, not beautiful. Uncomfortable. Write it down, put it somewhere you'll see it tomorrow morning. And then, today, do one small, imperfect action in the direction of that line. Not because you feel ready, not because you feel motivated, but because you're done waiting to feel different before you act different. Because here's the truth most people spend years avoiding. Reading about change feels safe. Talking about change feels intelligent. Planning change feels responsible. But only doing change changes you. The book was never the destination. It was a sign pointing at a road. And for a long time you stood there, studying the sign, understanding the sign, highlighting the sign, agreeing with the sign, but not walking. So this is the moment you stop studying the sign and take one step on the road. If you want, you can even write the word action in the comments. Not for me, but as a marker for yourself that today is the day you stopped consuming change and started practicing it. That's it. Now go do the thing you've been learning about instead of just learning about it.